So everyone's like, Crazy Chef, you should make the Jamaican beef patties. And I was a little reluctant. 3 cups flour, curry powder, turmeric, salt, baking powder, and sugar. And most important, shortening and butter. Very important. Last night I had a dream that I should make beef patties with a vibe. So today I'm bringing the vibe. So let's get started. All right, so everyone's like, Chef, make the crust. Chef, make the Jamaican beef patties. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not ready yet. But today we're making Jamaican beef patties. Wrong, but I'm gonna switch it up because I like to bring that vibe. So today we're making vegetable patties, and we're gonna take those patty crust and we're gonna make Ackee tarts. Let's get into the vibe. So in my bowl I put 3 cups all-purpose flour, and you can save a little bit of your flour because you're gonna need extra flour for something else. So 3 cups all-purpose flour. All right. So I put 2 teaspoons salt, put like 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, and very important, this is that special vibe. I put a tablespoon of turmeric and a tablespoon of curry powder. Reason being, not everyone likes the taste of turmeric. So turmeric and the curry powder gives that extra vibe. You mix that in. You get those lumps out. Take a wooden spoon, give it a mix. The thing is, if you mix it and it doesn't have the color, you can always add more curry powder or more turmeric in your mixture. So I'm gonna add 1 more tablespoon of curry powder. So your butter and your shortening, you're gonna take a half because you're gonna need the rest, and you dump that in. And don't put your hands right away. Kind of take your spoon, and so you take your spoon and you get your butter all coated before you put your hands. If you're using a mixer, it's better for you, but I don't have a mixer, so I gotta use my hands. So then you put your spoon aside and you take your fingers and you go in and you just kind of like crumble it. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna start to look like breadcrumbs, and that's how you know you have that vibe. So you just take your hands, crumble it all the way, and it's gonna feel weird. It's gonna feel like it's not flour anymore, but that's what you need. Is you want that butter to mix with that flour, and that's gonna allow air to go in the mixture. And you'll realize like the color starts to change. So that's when the curry and the turmeric starts to activate. So it changed the color, and you'll see that color change. So you do that, you mix that in. Stuff is right. You take your hands and you go right under, and it should come through your fingers like sand. See that? That's what you want. So now make a well, hold milk, and you put it in. Don't put all. So I put a cup first, and you mix it. So you put a cup and you mix. And if it looks like it's too soft, it's okay, because you're gonna put it back in your freezer. So once you put it back in your freezer, it's gonna be good. And your dough is gonna look like this. Good. So this is what your dough should look like. So I'm gonna take this dough, give it a little pat, then I'm gonna put it in my Ziploc container, and I'm gonna put it in my freezer for a half an hour. Then I'm gonna work on my filling. So I'm gonna put this in my freezer for a half an hour and work on my filling. Then I'm gonna roll it out and add more butter. Let's go to the freezer. So this is our dough. So what you want to do is you want to roll it out a little bit. So see that extra flour I told you about? That to roll your dough. Slowly turn it like that. And it will try to break apart. If it tries to break apart, just kind of put it back together. And you take the same flour and you just roll the dough. Roll it. So you want to roll it as thin as possible without like breaking it. Usually some people will clip the sides, but we're not gonna clip the sides, and you'll see why in a minute. So then what I do is I take, so remember we saved the rest of the shortening? So I take that, pieces of it, all over the dough. So the shortening is kind of soft, but the butter is hard. And shortening doesn't really get hard, so don't worry about the shortening. Butter all over the dough like that. And the reason for this is, so you take the dough and you fold it like that. And because it's a flaky pastry, what happened is, so we fold it like that. We take the rest of the butter, because remember it's a flaky pastry, so this butter, extra butter that you put in, is what's gonna create the flakes. And you fold it like that, right? Take the rest of your butter. It's not a lot, but it's good. You put it so like that, and you fold it this part like that. And if you see all these, that's all layers of butter, and that's why you get that flaky pastry. I put it, we're gonna put this back in our refrigerator. So we're gonna put this back, so we put a little flour so we don't lose it. We're gonna put this back in our refrigerator. Dust, we put it back in the Ziploc bag. So like that, give it a little press, And we're gonna put this back in our freezer. Put this in our freezer because I said refrigerator, but I was wrong. So 30 minutes back in our freezer, and then we're gonna roll it out and make our pastry. Now we have our dough out of our freezer. So what you want to do is you want to cut it in half. And if you see, you'll see all those lines. That's all your flakiness. Set a half of it aside. And what you want to do is you want to push. Slowly push. And then you roll slowly. And you'll hear like bubbles start breaking. That means it's good. So slowly push on the dough, roll it. You keep the flour, flip it over like that. Just roll out the dough. Keep your rolling pin. You might have to clean it every now and again, but it's okay. Then you put some flour and you roll. Just roll the dough. That's the put the flour and just roll the dough. And then you just take your mold, just cut it. Okay, so this is our actual thing. So you take the ackee and codfish right in there. And if you want a detailed recipe for the ackee, I'll leave a link in the description so you can get a recipe for the ackee. But this is for our tarts. So we bake it halfway and then we fill it with the ackee, just like that. Don't fill them too much because you're gonna wanna be able to take the tarts out. So you just put your ackee in with your salted cod. And as I said, if you wanna see me make, the beef patties, drop me a comment, just say, beef patties, chef, and I'll make a beef patty recipe. But today we're just small vibe. These are good for like if you have people over, you know, because if you're doing like a cocktail party, you can make these. I actually saw on Facebook there was like a ackee pie, and I was like, that's pretty cool. So I figure I'll make some tarts. So and then we're gonna put it back in the oven. So this is so good, you could get a couple dumplings for the leftovers. Be really, really good. So this is our ackee saltfish tarts. Big vibe. We just garnish it with some bell peppers and some chopped scallion. So this is the crust from the patty, the flaky pastry, and it just gives it that big vibe. KrazeChef, if it's your first time here, hit that red subscribe button. If you're a regular on the channel, always checking out the vibe, you know the deal. Hit that like button. Pay attention to the real vibe. This is our Jamaican ackee saltfish tart. First to be made on the channel. I saw the ackee saltfish pie on Facebook and I'll figure I'll give it a... Alright, ready. Alright, so now Jamaican patties, but this is vegetables. So inside these ones, it's the callaloo. So that's the Jamaican patty with the callaloo. And just that beautiful vibe. As I said, big vibe. We have the vegetarian patties and we have the ackee saltfish tarts. KrazeChef, big vibe. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the channel, check out my ackee saltfish recipe, and check out the big recipe, the ramen noodle recipe. Big vibe.